right, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you guys are located. Thanks for coming today. We'll be discussing the latest release of Stratum version 7.5. So that is now available, and we wanted to talk about some of the new features that come with it. As you can see, there's a Stratum glossary now that's included. And you can also filter on your attribute fields, and you can sort on them. You can define them as text or numeric. Some interesting things there we'll take a look at. There's a new KPI function that's available for your time range columns. So we'll take a look at what you can do with those. You can drill down by measure column or measure. You can actually define each unique measure with a different view that you want to take the user to. And I've done some interesting things with that. And we've given a viewer just basically a facelift so that it has more of a modern look to it. And some other miscellaneous things we'll talk about. So welcome, and here we go. So let's talk about exactly what is the Stratum glossary. Well, it's basically a thing that users will be able to turn on and off. So don't worry, it's not something that's going to be getting in the way or, this obstacle that will users will trip over. It's not the case. It's actually something that you can actually turn on and off. Each view, they have the opportunity to turn it on. And if they have any questions about the data model, they're actually able to get additional information from the visual cues that they get when they turn it on. Admins can go in and add content to the glossary and copy and paste perhaps from the solution design document from Stratum would be a good idea to do. We do populate it with default stuff, but it's nothing spectacular. It's like, this is the product description. This is the product family description, that type of thing. So that's what admins can actually do, and they're able to add obviously more relevant content to the descriptions of the dimensions and measures. You can access it from the view, like I said, and you can also get to it from the top menu, the hamburger menu in the top panel. So we'll take a look at that in the demo about how you can actually turn it on. We have a few screenshots of here, what it looks like. As you can see here, it's turned on, and you can see that there's these informational visual cues that are available for each column. You've got, they're also available for the dimensions and attribute columns. And then also for each member of that dimension, you can look into each individual member, such as in this case, individual product brand. And you can look at all the different attributes that are available for that product brand and the description of that particular dimension. So for instance, here we're looking at one of the columns, the budget. There's a budget frozen amount column here. So we've clicked in on that informational tab or a visual cue, and we can see that the menu opens up and allows me to see what that budget amount is. As we can see, it's been frozen as of January 15th, approved by whoever, somebody's initials. You can add more stuff to that. This is something that you could perhaps say to be compared to actual sales, whatever you want. I mean, whatever you think the users would need to know about that measure. And you can from this menu, you could turn on the details and gain more access to the other measures that are within this view. So you don't have to click back out and click back in. If you want to highlight some of the other measures within the view, you can click on details there, and it'll also allow you to see the other measures within the view, and you can then gain access to those very quickly and easily. Here we can see that we've gone into the product, one of the product informational buttons. And now we're able to see all the different attributes that are a part of that product without having to bring them all in as columns of data. So just, again, providing more data points, more all of this information in addition to definition of the dimension itself. As we can see, this is the product level. The source of this data is in dynamics. This is the stuff, that we have a demo for. It's demo data. The attributes are from multiple sources. You could expand upon that if you need to or wanted to, include field and file names, etc. I think you understand the concept. It's completely customizable for admins to go in and provide more additional content. Here we can see that as an admin, I can go into the hamburger menu, the top panel menu in the upper right-hand corner, and there's a new Stratum glossary menu option there that will allow me to go in at a very top level of the glossary and manage it. So here we can see that I've gone into it. I've got actually a definition of the application itself. It gives me good information about last time things have been updated. And then I can access all the different views within Stratum, or the dimensions in this case, calculations, etc. Gives you a nice count of all the different things that you have within Stratum. Very informational. You can change it to be a list view if you wanted to. Up to you how you want to actually manage your glossary. And we'll take a better look at, but a deeper look at that in the demo. Other things that are available within 7.5 is a new attribute filter. So now you have a way to right click on any attribute column and provide a filter where you can specify things like contains, or you can filter on an average selling price greater than 100. If you're storing this stuff within the attribute filter. So, we can then type in keyword things like Acme Group to basically use that as a filter for any customer that has that in their description column or field, I should say. Here we can see that we've got filters now on the long description where it contains the word cherries. We've got also a filter over here on the ABC classification where it's just A items only. And then anything greater than a list price of 100, which is stored within Stratum as well. And before, now if any product comes in that might be new and fits these criteria, it will be included in that filter. So it behaves as if it's a dynamic filter. Here we can see how we would define that filter by right-clicking and editing the filter on that field. We can see that we can define it using a new menu called the Attribute Relationship Filter. Here also we can see that for those attribute columns, we can right-click and go to the properties and change that property to a number. So instead of a text field format, we can change that to a number format, and then you're able to actually do numerical things to that, such as greater or sorting, stuff like that. You can also do that at a global level in the dimension maintenance screens for admins. Here we have a greater than 100, obviously. So now that once we change that to numeric, it will behave as though we would presume it to behave. Moving on to Stratum KPI enhancements, we've actually added a new count member function to the KPIs, and it allows you to pursue counts now on your products or count how many customers you might have per region. Makes the expression before, you could do this before, but it would require much more syntax, and it wasn't very friendly. So This makes it much easier, simpler, however you want to say it. But yeah, it's nice and it's much easier. It's also optimized for performance, so you don't have to go in and that was part of the syntax before, where you had to actually add more syntax so that it would actually perform well. That's not required any longer, which is always great. So they did a nice job on this, and we'll take a look at that. In addition to a variety of other KPI things that you can add to your columns of data, you can do averaging, you can do max and minimums, standard deviation of weekly available inventory by product. So I see where averaging all of these will be very helpful. And I'll give you an example of what you might be able to accomplish with some of this. Here we can see that the KPI enhancement, I've got number of products sold here by customer sold to. We were able to define that rather easily using the new KPI enhancement, using that new function for count. We could also drill down by measure. So if we wanted to drill to another view by the different measures within my view, that's available. So if you wanted to take, you might have a column of sales and then another column with inventory or open orders. Well, those columns you might want to take to the user to other views containing more detailed data for those measures. Maybe for the open orders, maybe you take them to an aged open order report. Whereas for sales, you take them to maybe a trend style report that gives them more of a trended report. It's limitless what you can do, and it's easy to define it. And Sylvan's done a great job of making it work easy and making it efficient. So we'll take a look at that too. And then the facelift. Hopefully you'll notice that things look a little bit better, more modern. We updated the look of the pop-up windows so that they, again, they look more sophisticated, more modern looking. Other miscellaneous things to take note here are support for Windows Server and SQL Server 2022. So this is for 7.5 only. And so as you can see, you can also move, if you're running on 2012, Microsoft has stopped supporting that version. So probably time to think about moving up to a newer release of your server and SQL Server. And why not move up to some of the later years? That way you won't have to worry about it for a while. So as you can see, we can help you do that. There's also a relationship filter enhancement that's been included so that the calculations, for instance, if you use a calculation within your view for an attribute, you can actually tell it how to handle that to make it perform better. And then finally, the 7.5 executables, they're different setup files that you would download from Sylvan. We've went ahead and made those unique so that they don't all say setup.exe. We understand that can be a little confusing once you have all these different setup files and they're all named the same way. We've decided to make them unique for the product that there's a setup file for. So we thought that would make things easier for, well, basically for all of us. Other things to look at here, upgrading. Obviously, if you wanted to upgrade to 7.5, we will have to upgrade you first to 7.2 if you are on a version previous to that. And that would require a full process at that point. If you're already at version 7.2, you could actually upgrade without having to do a full process per se. Even though it happens probably every night for you, you could feasibly upgrade and just let the nightly process run as is instead of doing something manual. If you don't want to do it, we can do it for you. Just feel free to contact me. My name's Adam Kurtz. I've probably spoken to some of you, many of you. and you can contact me by reaching Sylvan. Just send the information to, we have Sylvan, www.sylvan.com, and you can reach out and contact us there. All right, without further ado, let's take a look at some of the new stuff that we have available. We can go ahead and bring that up. Basically, here it is. So if you're running a version, a rather old version, you're probably in shock at this point because it does look different. It does look different. We've got a new frame, color scheme. We've got new menus that are available here on the left-hand side. But at the end of the day, we got view groups that you can open up. We've got views that you click on, and the views run within the main frame. So, users shouldn't be vastly lost in terms of how they run the views. So, and so I ran a view. Obviously, here it is, the data grid itself. You might notice an overall modernality to the icons have been upgraded in prior versions, so everything looks really good, I think. Here's the data grid. We've got all the navigational bar area that's been added to some prior versions. So if you don't see any of this stuff, please reach out. We can help you. If you're on maintenance, we can really help you get upgraded so you can take advantage of some of this really, really cool stuff. Let's take a look at the glossary. So if I have this more information button over here, if I turn that on, we can see that the glossary is now available. And so I can go in and click in on some of these measures. So here I clicked in on the actual sales measure there, the first column, and you can drag and drop these around, place them on a different display if you wanted to. And here I can see that my measure, it reflects the values of sales bucketed by the invoice date. Typically, this measure includes return information, sales net of returns. Right? I mean, I would think your users would probably want to know that. And, especially a seasoned analyst, will ask this question. And we've had this question asked. I've had it asked numerous times in planning sessions before we even implement the product. What is sales? So, this is a great way to answer their questions so that, so that they don't bother you. And you can go in and edit this stuff if you have the authority. So if you're a security administrator, a view administrator, you can actually go in and either edit. This is all free-form text. So if I wanted to add more stuff, as you can see, you can type that in as needed and save it. So it behaves as if it's kind of like a wiki. Here we can see that the column, we've got more information about whether it's planning enabled, is it a import, how does the data get in? Well, it looks like it's traditionally done. So we call that a corporate data measure, meaning it's fed in by standard ERP processes instead of being imported by users. Typically planning enabled will be turned off for sales. So again, don't be alarmed. Last time we updated this stuff, last time it was updated in terms of this, the glossary information. So, man, I mean, a lot of really good information is available here. And again, here's that details button. So if I turn that on, I can see that, well, there's no other per se, there's not a great example, but if I had other measures like open orders, I would be able to access them right here. I can get to other stuff by opening up the glossary index. And then if I wanted to type in open, it will actually allow me to access all the measures that have that word open in it. And I can then access my open order amount if I wanted to see what that said. I can close that glossary back out. So here's a good example of the default description that you'll see initially. This is the description for open orders. not great, but it gives you, at least it's something, right? So again, you'd be able to go in and nix that and say what needs to be said. Again, some of this might already be documented within your solution design document. Use that, just copy and paste it in, make it easy. We do realize it's a lot of work, so this is something that you'll need to um, assign to someone, piecemeal it out, plan how you would want to do this. There's no input capability other than data entry at this point. So you'll have to use the menus to enter this data in. Looking at the dimension, if I wanted to see the description of the dimension, I can do the same things here. And then for the tip top brand, I can see that not only can I see what's on the view, but I can also see the other attributes that are available for that particular brand 001, tip top brand, and so on and so forth. Sorry, I just did a drill down on that. Dewdrop, same thing. Again, I can see different information for dewdrop and so on and so forth. For calculations, you can do the same thing. You might want to describe how it's calculated. So you can really do some things that would provide a lot of really good information here. So you can do that for all your global views, add in more information, the better, I think, at this point. Other ways to get to this would be, like we said, through the hamburger menu in the top right-hand side. If I go in, well, not about Stratum, although you could do that, Stratum glossary, and then here at the top level, I can see that, this is the demo, my demo environment. This is the description for that. Here we have the last time the cube's been updated, which is interesting. I've got 99 dimensions, but my glossary isn't one. Nevertheless, I can go in and access all my data model here for the different measures and calculations. And then, of course, if I'm looking for something in particular, I can always open up my glossary and search for it. So it's a great, they've done a really nice job in it, I think, and it's something that we've been asked about. I've been asked about during demos and implementations, and so that is the glossary. And you can, at the end of the day, once you get what you want out of it, you can always turn it off, and you're back to square one. Okay. Attribute filters. So let's go in, let's filter on an attribute field. So if I want certain things here, I'm going to change my dimension up here in the navigational screen, and I'm just going to drag and drop products over here as my first dimension. It'll give us a little more attributes to work with. All right, and some more products as well. All right, let's go ahead and do a filter on the long description column. So right click, edit filter, and there's the new menu. Anything that contains, does not contain, starts with, doesn't start with, equals something, greater than or less than. So obviously some things here, text, if I wanted something that had the word peach in it, then I can go in and I can go ahead and specify that here. Okay, so there's my filter on the column of my long description for peach. If I right click and now add in another attribute, I can then kind of bring in my list price. Okay, so now list price comes into play, and now I can do some filtering on that. But before I do that, I want to make sure that this is a numeric field. So I'm going to right click and check the properties on that attribute field. And indeed it is. So as you can see, you can now change it to either text or numeric, and the administrators will set this up for you. There's actually a menu that only admins can get to that they can initially go in and set up all the attributes within Stratum to either numeric or text. And so I would recommend admins to do that, so that when obviously when I get and bring these attributes in, I don't have to worry about changing it to numeric. I can go ahead and do it, my necessary sorting and filtering. So now if I sort this, it sorts it, it treats it like a number. Hey, that's exactly what you'd want it to do. And then I can sort that that way. I can filter on it. So anything greater than 47. So I can do fun things like that. Okay. So that is brand spanking new. If I go into my filter menu, I can see that I've got my filter there on the product level. It contains peach and greater than 47. The exclude filter that if I put on my exclude, that's not going to work. Why? Because it only applies to the numbers, the actual product numbers. Okay, so that's something that, if you use these filters, what you can do is does not contain, right? If you really wanted to flip this around, you can actually use the operator language to get what you need out of it anyway. So it's not the end of the world. Over here, we can see that I've got some drill to columns. So some examples here might be, well, this is my year-to-date column. So I've got like a time range column, and the user, well, they might want to see how it trended out year-to-date for this particular product, or any of these products for that matter. Why not just take them to a view that does that automatically? So I can just click on that. It filters on the product that I clicked in on, and then it shows me this year and last year's sales trended out for me already with a nice little variance column, or percent of last year, right? So you can do that for any one of these products here, 207, the number's foot. Why? Because we're automatically just dumping that product number into the view filter, so that you don't have to worry about it. You can rest assured that what you click on, 5.5 mil, 5.5 mil. It's really nice. How do we set this up? Well, let's go to the properties on that column, and we can see a drill down view for the columns now, for the measures. And you just specify what view you want to take them to from the menu of views, and you can search for keywords on the view names as well. It's real. They've made this so simple now. You don't have to build parameters. You don't have to think about really anything else other than the business purpose of why you would take them to this view. Why, that's really what you need to think about. For instance, month to date. So my month to date column comparisons are right here. September is my current month for this database. So I'm doing okay. I can see areas where I'm lagging behind a little bit for some of these products. Well, for me, if this is current month and we're not quite done with the current month, I'd really want to know what my open orders are, so I can kind of figure out if I'm in big trouble or not. What do we have open? What are we going to ship, and when? So here I can click in on that, and then it will then filter on that item and then show me the AIDS report for open orders. And thank God I've got some more, orders coming in that'll help out current weekend and next week. So, again, so now I'm taking them to a different view. If I go to the properties of that column, obviously it's going to a different view. So that's new. And then another thing, while we're in this view, sorry about that, folks, is here I've got a rolling scenario, and it gives me some information about this year and last year, the last 6 months of sales. And overall, it looks good. I'm doing so okay in terms of that. What I can also do ad hoc, or I can add another column, is I can change the display value as. Excuse me, folks. Yeah, but let me take a sip of water here. So by default, it's set as a sum, but you can change it to some of those other KPI measurements that we talked about in the presentation. For instance, maybe I wanted to see an average for that time range. So now it's going to change that number, those numerical values for this time range of July through September of this year. And that's my average. Okay. Well, wouldn't it be interesting to just kind of bump that up against your month-to-date sales? Yeah, it really does give you a perspective, doesn't it? And we can see that we are in a bit of trouble here, I think, for peach. If we're only at 93, and well, we've got some ground to make up, don't we? My next question would be, where in the month are we? And I can just get that from my calendar. So other things you can look up here would be workday. Where am I at? How many work days do I have left? Those are all things that you can store within Stratum. As a matter of fact, those workday columns and the data model to store that information is actually part of the Stratum based data model. So if you're not taking advantage of some of this stuff, you really need to. Let me know how I can help you do that. Okay. So again, using some of these KPIs, and then finally, if I wanted maybe to do a, let me go ahead and clear some of this out. I'm going to clear out some of these filters. As you can see, you can just get rid of them all. And then finally, you know, maybe there's something that I want to do for account, right? So maybe at the sold to level, so now I've got all my sold tos, and now I'm going to add in a calculated measure, and I'm going to go to my Stratum functions, and I'm going to see my new count member function that's available to me now. And so it's going to ask me a couple things. It's going to ask me for the level that I want to count, and the measure, what number do I want to base the count on. So I'll go to my hierarchies, and I definitely want to count my products. So I'm going to fill that in by clicking on the product hierarchy. And then for the measures, I'm going to come down, and I want to base that on year-to-date sales. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And then, you know, I can fill in a color, or I can format it. Well, it's just going to be a number, so I'll just give it that. And then this is my product count, or my SKU count, whatever you want to call it. But it's a count of your products. Well, I don't know where I got that. So SKU count, right? There's the new function, performance. I don't have to worry about it. Thank God I don't have to write a sophisticated if-then statement here. I can click OK, and voila, I've got my SKU count over here by customer. I can see Wilder, 63 products sold so far this year. As I drill to the product level, guess what? I get 64 rows, and you're asking yourself, what's that extra row? It's the grand total row. So yeah, that's what you want to see there, man. So right now, Sumter, and I can sort on this, who's selling the most unique product? Well, we just found out that it's Wilder. We got the other Wilder division coming in. We got Presswick. They're purchasing 47 products. Here they all are. Wouldn't you want to know that? At either customer sold to, how about region? Where are your products? You got 94 unique products sold in the East, 50 in the West. So right away, I know some of the stronger regions that I have within my enterprise. What's division? What's my grocery versus food service? How's that going? And the retail divisions is bigger. It has the more unique, not necessarily bigger. Well, we can see that the sales are bigger for sure. So that makes sense. So that's the new count member, 7.5 viewer Stratum. You don't want to miss it.